Welcome to Evidential. Today, we are opening the file on Flight 19, the Bermuda Triangle Debunked. Grainy, high-res archival footage of TBM Avenger aircraft taking off from a carrier deck. Sound of radial engines roaring. December 5th, 1945. Fort Lauderdale. 5 TBM Avengers take off on navigation problem number 1, a routine training exercise. 14 men, 5 planes. And yet, none return. For 80 years, this loss has been the cornerstone of the Bermuda Triangle mythology. But at the Evidential archive, we don't look for monsters in the waves. We look for failures in the flight logs. Today, we perform a forensic reconstruction of Flight 19. Close-up of a 1945 flight chart with a protractor and pencil on it. This wasn't a disappearance into a portal. It was a failure of the oldest navigation system in history, the human brain, relying on dead reckoning. We are autopsying the decisions, the math, and the mechanical limits that turned a routine flight into a tragic, inevitable conclusion. The math of navigation. In 1945, there was no GPS, no digital flight management systems. Pilots used dead reckoning. This is the process of calculating one's current position by using a previously determined position and advancing that position based on known or estimated speeds, elapsed time, and course. If your heading is off by even 5 degrees, you aren't just slightly lost. You are miles away from your target. On the left, a compass needle fluctuating. On the right, a cockpit view of the ocean. The TBM Avenger relied on a magnetic compass. Over the Atlantic, magnetic variation is a known, measurable factor. If a pilot fails to calibrate for this variation, the error compounds every minute. We have analyzed the radio transcripts of Flight 19. They weren't fighting an anomaly, they were fighting the math of their own navigation. Compounding errors, an animated map of Florida and the Atlantic, show the expected flight path versus the actual path, drifting further east. The flight log shows the lead pilot, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, believed he was over the Florida Keys. His instrument interpretation was absolute. Even as the terrain below, the geography of the Atlantic suggested otherwise. This is spatial disorientation. It is a documented aviation killer. When the pilot's brain overrides the evidence of the instruments, the squadron is doomed. A graphic overlay on the map showing the point of no return, fuel exhaustion. The squadron flew in a search pattern that pushed them further and further out to sea. This wasn't bad luck. It was the result of a pilot insisting he was on the right heading, while his instruments were indicating he was miles off target. Every minute they flew in the wrong direction, they were burning fuel they needed to get home. The fuel autopsy technical specs of the TBM Avenger fuel consumption. A graphic shows a fuel gauge needle dropping to empty. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers. The Avenger had a specific operational range. We have reconstructed the fuel burn rates for Flight 19. Once the squadron passed the 1-hour mark of their search pattern, the mathematics of their survival became binary. It was no longer a question of if they would run out of fuel, but when. CGI recreation of the sun setting over the ocean, low light. With low fuel, failing light, and worsening weather, the Avenger's structural and fuel limits were reached. When fuel exhaustion occurs over the open ocean at night, the ditching procedure is nearly impossible. This explains the lack of wreckage. They didn't vanish into a mystery. They descended into the ocean because they ran out of the only resource that keeps an aircraft in the sky: fuel. The verdict. The forensic reconstruction tells a clear story. Flight 19 was a masterclass in how small compounding errors, navigation mistakes, instrument misinterpretation, and fuel mismanagement create a catastrophic outcome. The Bermuda Triangle had nothing to do with it. Gravity and physics were the final judges. The Flight 19 file is now closed. We investigate the details so you don't have to. Does this navigational autopsy clarify the mystery for you? Or do you find the human error aspect harder to accept than the myth? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to the Evidential. See you in the next deep dive.